Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again, and today I'm going to be talking about L'Homme Ideal Extreme, so stay tuned for that. And if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. So I did a first impression of this fragrance recently. It is a newly released 2020 flanker of the L'Homme Ideal line, which is a popular line from Guerlain. And I decided to revisit this one, wear it more, because I thought it had a lot of potential in the first impressions, but I really wanted to work on it, see how it dries down, see what the performance is like, and give a full assessment. So this is one that's definitely made it back onto the full reviews. Not everything I do a first impression of is going to make it back, possibly because I didn't like them, or, you know, especially as they dried down, I really didn't like them. That's the biggest reason why. The other thing is time constraints. Of course, I can't make videos all the time, but this one, it's coming back, and this is, like I said, a new release 2020 from the House of Guerlain. Now, I will actually open up by saying I have tried some of the other Ideal flankers, some of the other line. So I actually, one of the first ones I smelled was Cologne. And I bought it because it was discontinued. People were hyping it up, and I was greatly disappointed with that one. Really gave me a bit of an unpleasant experience with the line. I tried Cool, but only briefly. I thought it was okay, but like I said, I just tried it briefly in the airport, so it wasn't really even a full first impression because I didn't even really wear it. I just smelled it right on the strip, and it seemed nice, but. You know, I haven't tried everyone from the line, but I will say right up front, if you're looking for the short of it so far, I think this is my favorite from the line, and I do think this is a solid release. So, into the actual fragrance, what is it like? Now, on the opening, I find this one, it is a little bit abrasive, not overly unpleasant, especially if you're used to things like red tobacco, how they can be quite in your face. I find that really what it is just the very strong cherry and the leather in the opening. And the leather is, especially in the opening, it's a little bit sour, which is nice. It gives you this kind of sour cherry vibe, but it is also a little bit abrasive. So it is one that I think, it's not super smooth in the opening, but it is a good opening. It is strong though, so do be aware of that. But you get this kind of nice sour cherry with a little bit of a leathery vibe. Now also underneath that cherry, I do get a bit of a fruity vibe. Now I don't think there's other fruits listed on this one, but it does smell like nondescript fruits in the background. And it's not super prominent, but it is definitely there. I think it might be partially because the cherry is it's not a super realistic cherry. I could see some people comparing this to like cherry from Vicks cough drop. Much in the same way that, I mean, if you've smelled Insurrection 2 Wild, it has cherry in it, and it's not super realistic, but you can tell cherry is what they're going for. And to me, it's still nice. I do like it. But if you really want that sort of super realistic cherry smell, I don't think this is so much it. But it does have a cherry vibe, and perhaps just because of the notes or fragrances or aroma chemicals that they use to get that cherry accord. It also comes off a little bit fruity. Now, it is nice. It's a pleasant sort of undertone, but it is something definitely different than just cherry. Now, as this one dries down, it does start to become a little bit more familiar, and that's also when I start to get more of the tobacco. So the opening tobacco to me is not actually that prominent, but it is one of the most prominent notes in the dry down. And to me, it comes off more like this kind of creamy, smooth, almost chocolatey tobacco. And I do find that with a lot of fragrances that have tobacco in the dry down, something like red tobacco, something like Carlisle, something like even Creation E or Enigma, there is this sort of quality with the tobacco, something with the notes that they're using. I usually associate it with something like vanilla that gives it a bit of a cocoa or chocolatey vibe. And that, to me, is the main player in the dry down. It's very prominent, and it is very smooth. It's very pleasant, and it is actually a little bit alluring as well. That being said, it's also not the most unique dry down, but it is really nicely done. So it is a very nice, pleasant, enjoyable dry down. I also do get that almond more in the dry down. Now it starts off. Now almond is kind of the centerpiece of this line, or one of the main characteristic features of this line, and I do get it a little bit in the opening as sort of a dry, nutty vibe, just a hint of it. Like the tobacco, it gets a little bit stronger in the dry down. I do definitely get more of a bit of a creamy almond, but it is definitely still more of a nuttiness in maybe the background, not quite the background. It's not quite as weak, but to me the tobacco is much more prominent. The leather as well is not such a main player to me in the dry down. So it has this nice sort of creamy, almondy, chocolatey vibe to it. It's actually quite enjoyable, and I gotta say, I wore this the other day. It's my scent of the day today, but I also tried it the other day because I had it sitting there for a while, and I wanted to revisit this one because it did have a lot of potential, and really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the dry down, especially a couple days ago. Decided to wear it again today, and of course to review it. So, like I said, this is not the most original dry down. The opening is definitely a little bit more unique. It has this sort of sour, tart, leathery cherry, whereas in the dry down you do get something that reminds me a lot more of something like a Red Tobacco or a Carlisle or even Creation E, where you have this chocolatey tobacco. Now, it doesn't smell exactly like any of those, and there's the addition of that almond, and it does have its own thing, but it's not a totally unique DNA. And for me, not every fragrance needs to be completely unique. People are always going to borrow from each other, and there frankly are so many fragrances. There's always going to be pretty much something in common with another fragrance that you could pick out and be like, oh, that smells like this, or whatever. So to me, it doesn't have to be groundbreaking. And so that's basically, to me, the fragrance. And I do think it is quite well done. And this is more, I think, what I was expecting from the quality and the scent profile of the L'Homme Ideal line. I was as I mentioned, very disappointed with the unusual smell from Ideal Cologne. But this one was pretty good. Now, the performance is also quite good on this one. So longevity, easily over 8 hours every time I've worn it. So that is really nice longevity, especially for a designer fragrance. I know that's not necessarily true. There are good performing designer fragrances, but I just guess my bar is a little bit. If it lasts 8 hours as a designer fragrance, I'm definitely very happy with that. I don't generally expect things to last over that, and this does do that. Now, projection, it's not a beast mode fragrance. It does have nice projection, sillage first 2-3 hours. It does sit a little bit closer to the skin, definitely after that, although there is still good sillage 5-6 hours later for sure. Now, it will be on the skin past that 6-hour mark, at least it was for me, but it's not projecting super strong or anything like that, but it is definitely still there. So projection and performance are also quite good. Now, the one thing I was really hopeful for this is I know some of the Ideal fragrances are really cheap on discounters. Now, this one is not super available on discounters yet. I do believe I have seen it on fragrancebuy.ca. 50 ml is, I think, around 70 American dollars, which isn't horrible. I would love to see this one more in that cheapy territory. Like if this ever became a $30 fragrance, or maybe even $40, I would pick it up right away, personally. And I already have too many fragrances, so the fact that I'm willing to buy something else, I kind of don't really want to buy anything else, even though I do, just because my collection is getting far out of size for my own practical purposes. But I think if this one does become cheaper, it's definitely worth it. At the $70 price point, I think it's fair. I wouldn't want to pay retail for this, but I don't really want to pay retail for anything. But I should say, if you like this one, if you try it out, you might want to hold out just a little bit longer, and it might show up more readily on discounters. Like the whole line is often, or a lot of the other ones from this line are available on discounters. I know I personally waited for Wood Neroli. I waited about a year, actually, because I knew I wanted to get it, but I didn't want to pay retail. And then I found a tester of, I think, 60 ml tester for $42, which to me is worth it. I think it's a good fragrance. And if the same type of thing happens with this, I think it's worth the pickup. Good fall, winter designer fragrance. Very pleasant, very enjoyable. Really do like this one. And it will be one that if I see it at a good discounted price, I'm probably going to buy it. Now, as far as occasions, like I said, fall, winter, it's a really, really good, easy wear. I would personally be able to wear this one anytime I'm going out. Now, especially because of that dry down, I think it could be a good date fragrance. It's very alluring. It's very sensual with that sort of creamy, cocoa-y vibe. It does have a certain quality to it that certainly could lend itself to formal occasions, although I feel like this is a little bit more of a laid-back fragrance that could be, for me, a daily wear. But, all in all, good one. To me, this redeemed the line because, I mean, Cool seemed okay. I really was disappointed with Cologne, but I do like this one, and it's one of the first Guerlains that I've really liked. Now, I haven't tried a ton of their fragrances, but even like Spiritus Double Vanille, I wasn't super impressed with, especially given the price point. But anyways, that's just me. I have not been a huge fan of the line, but I do like this fragrance, and then they do have certainly some gems. I was actually pretty surprised that I liked Habit Rouge, given that it's so, I feel like it's a polarizing fragrance. But anyways, you know what? I'm going to cut it there. If you've tried anything from the Idea line, let me know down below what is your favorite from the line. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.